Hey, it's cranky old Patrick once again with another version of TSTO Town Tours. This time it's Superbeast46, and man, it starts right off. Fun stuff. Looks like he's got some things in progress still there with his latest additions, but this part cracked me up right away. The Welcome to Canada thing with the giant ark. So basically, I think he's saying that that is a lifeboat for those folks in the lower 48. His use of water and isolation is the thing I want you to look at here. That was pretty cool with the Irish area there. His airport is decent. Then it starts getting kind of fun and interesting. So here you've got the Denmark world, as it were, Denmark segment. And so there's a lot of frozen north. There's a lot of little Denmark types of artifacts there. I'll come back to that in a minute. I'm going to do some freeze frames as we move forward on this. His town area is pretty cool. He's got a lot of stuff there. Again, using water to isolate. I really like what he did with his whole Santa Claus Toyland area there, using the cherry trees there to make things pop. Kind of pretty. Again, going back to Denmark. A lot of lodges, a lot of vibe there. I'm not really sure what the maze is doing there, except that maybe it's hard to find Denmark on a map. I don't know. So here you go with his giant casino area. It's very cool. Again, isolated by water. His kind of theme in general. He has these things segmented. His towns are realistic. Again, the thing I love about this kind of design, lots of plants, lots of detail, lots of things that make life interesting. I'm not really sure what that was all about. There's a lot of humor embedded in here. You have to go through and spend lots of time to kind of go through and figure out what he's trying to do, and some of the humor that comes off on each of his little islands, as it were. The international world there with the giant bot, I think, is saying something. We'd have to ask him to find out what. His entire Japanese Oriental world is really cool. I mean, again, that's detail. That's really, really cool detail. It takes a long time and a lot of design concept to make that thing work. He slides into his Paris area that looks very realistic. Again, using a combination of Springfield Heights buildings and stuff that we got in the actual update. Whoa, I don't know what that was. That was either the NSA or the Scientologist. Trying to figure out what we're talking about here. Again, thematically, a lot of candy there. A lot of fun stuff there all in one area. We move up to a segment there with his Japan/China area. Very cool. Again, tightly done. Looks realistic. I mean, if you've ever been to China or Japan, it's got that kind of multicultural mix in there. This is a huge, expansive county fair area. Again, really cool. It looks like someplace I've been before. That's really kind of the benchmark of, I think, a lot of these great designs, is there's a sense of familiarity about them. This is something that I'm going to come back to and do some freeze frames on. Just kind of blew through it right there, but he has a real clear homage to Disneyland, and I'll come back to that in a second. Kind of buzzing back through. I know this kind of, you almost need Dramamine, I understand, but it's kind of the only way I can really go through it. Again, everything's got kind of a fun little way he has it isolated with water. Water really is his dividing highway. And he told me in an email that he's going to try and divide all these, or connect all these with roadways, which that should be interesting to watch. This cracked me up. I thought it was a great, Egyptian look for somebody who's not Egyptian, obviously. Going off into, again, coming back to some of the areas there that we've touched on. This is funny. Now this opened up a mystery to me. So in his Springfield Heights, it's really his development area. There is a place that looked very familiar to me, as in I believe we saw something very similar to this in Ebronstown. So I started doing some research on who purloined from whom, and found out that it was in fact Ebron who had borrowed some ideas. No problem. Honor among thieves. Great designers pick from one another, I think. Great fun. There we go. He's really into pirates, I thought at first. Then I realized, no, this is the Disneyland thing. If you look at what he's done there with his whole Pirates of the Caribbean homage, it really does have a feel of what it feels like, as he called it, Wally World, but it's Disneyland. And there's some things that in there that are just plain clever. Really nicely done. His Rio de Janeiro area has a very nice use of 3D, and Christ overlooks just like it does in the real city. And we'll kind of come back and circle back to a place to end there. Let's just say that this tour can't remotely do this town justice. Every single corner is just plain clever and funny and loaded with ideas. In a final loop here, we'll take a second to do some freeze frames. So I like this little area there with the multiple tramways. This is totally cool. His Vegas layout. How much gold can you take in one area? This is very cool again. Gold, gold, gold everywhere. I like the way this thing just sits out there. It's really cool. It's almost like Tom Sawyer's Island if you combined the CIA. And the Easter Island, come on. Totally, totally fun. This is part of his Japanese area. Again, just beautifully done. Cookie in Sweetland. How can you not love that? Makes your mouth water. And here's more detail on his homage to Disneyland. That's the Bay Area. There's the Pirates of the Caribbean area, which kind of loops again into some of the fun stuff with the haunted house. If you've ever been to Disneyland, they're all very close to one another. This one is one I have to stop on. Talk about macabre. So he's got a combination of searchlights and lights and crowds and people watching this guy get hung. Of course, we know he only gets hung by the armpits in real life, but pretty macabre little detail there. Nice job. If you want an example of the gold standard, look no farther than Superbeast46.